Hi everyone, my name is Kylie James. I'm a certified nutritionist here at Crew Nutrition, and I'm here today to talk about the Low FODMAPs diet. Basically, the quick 101 about what it is, who needs to be on it, and what are the foods that you should be consuming and not consuming. So the Low FODMAPs was initially designed in Australia to help combat irritable bowel syndrome. So what is IBS? It's basically affects the intestines and it's both by causing issues with motility, so the way the food moves through the intestines, and sensitivity, so the way the signals from the intestines are interpreted by the brain. So IBS symptoms can range from just being a little bit irritating and annoying to be really disruptive, embarrassing, and even debilitating. So a lot of people sometimes have to take time off from school or work just because the symptoms can be so severe, the pain, the abdominal pain, and the constipation and diarrhea. So nearly half of reported sufferers actually have to take time off from work or school. So that's huge. So really important that we look at what we can do to help address this. But how do you diagnose IBS? So a lot of people are walking around that have IBS that don't know it. And how you, basically the symptoms to look for is having abdominal pain at least once a week in the last several months, changes in frequency of bowel movements, so how often you're going to the washroom, and the consistency or form. So you may struggle with constipation or you may struggle with diarrhea. A lot of times I feel people struggle with a combination of both. So what's really interesting is IBS symptoms can actually manifest outside the digestive tract. So if you're someone that struggles with insomnia or fibromyalgia, the root cause may be undiagnosed IBS. Other symptoms can be interstitial cystitis, chronic pelvic pain, TMJ disorder, back pain, migraine headaches, and even mood disorders. So it's really important to seek out a health professional just to do a diagnosis to see if you do have IBS. Now, IBS is really, really common. In fact, more than half of the Canadian population report uncomfortable or inconvenient digestive symptoms on a weekly basis. And twice as many women are affected by digestive issues as opposed to men. So the global average of IBS is about 10 to 11% of the world population. But really what's quite interesting is that Canadians, 18 to 20% of Canadians are dealing with some form of IBS. So we are among the most highest rates in the world, which is quite fascinating. Another interesting fact is only 40% of those with IBS symptoms actually seek help for their condition. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot of people walking around that have undiagnosed IBS. So for those who do seek support, the current first line of treatment is following a low FODMAPs diet. And the reason why they need to do this is there is actually a ton of research that shows that 75 to 86% of people that follow this diet actually experience symptom improvements, which is huge. So what is the low FODMAPs diet? So basically, it's a diet that's meant to minimize, not eliminate, specific fermentable forms of carbohydrates. So these are carbohydrates that our bodies just have a hard time processing and breaking down. So the low FODMAPs diet involves eliminating those types of carbs for a short time, typically about 3 to 8 weeks, then systematically reintroducing them into larger quantities back into our diet while monitoring our symptoms. Because not everyone is going to react to every kind of FODMAP carbohydrate. So we want to sort of figure out what are the triggers and what are okay for us to consume. So what are FODMAPs? So FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. So these are specific short chain forms of carbohydrates and sugar alcohols that are just not digestible. And because they're not digestible, they end up being fermented and digested by your gut bacteria. And the end product is they produce this hydrogen gas. It sounds like a bit like a bomb going off, but for some people it probably feels like that. So this hydrogen nitrogen gas gets released, and this causes those digestive symptoms, the bloating, the stomach distension, the flatulence, and the abdominal pain. So the other thing is FODMAPs also tend to pull water into the intestines. So this can also contribute to diarrhea and urgency problems. So the problem with the FODMAPs diet is it involves a lot of removing a lot of really healthy foods. I mean, look at these pictures here. You've got cabbage and kale and garlic and Brussels sprouts and fruits and yogurt. Like, these are all healthy foods. But with someone that has IBS, this can be really problematic. So some of those foods that we need to look at removing is sugar found in fruits called fructose. So, but this also includes refined corn sweeteners, such as high fructose corn syrup, but no one should be consuming that anyway. The sugar lactose, which is found in dairy products. Fructans, which are found in wheat products and those cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, some onions and garlic. They also contain galactans, so those are your soy-based products, your beans, your legumes and lentils, and polyols. So those are your stone fruits such as peaches and plums, but also found in additives and sugar-free products such as gum and soda. So you're probably starting to get quite confused now. It's like, wow, there's a lot of foods here that I would be consuming on a regular basis. So the high FODMAPs diet, so this is foods that we really need to be avoiding when implementing the low FODMAPs diet. So again, it's interesting because I did a talk on constipation, and I'm telling everyone to eat lots of fiber, so lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains, and here we are, lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains are needing to be removed. So for vegetables, your onions, your garlic, artichoke, mushrooms, beetroot, fruits, your apples, your avocados, your bananas. Interesting, just want to make a note of bananas, ripe. Peach, apricot, plums, nectarines, so lots of yummy fruits. Again, your wheat-based products, your wheat foods, your gluten-based grains, which includes rye and barley. Protein sources are your processed meats, your deli meats and luncheon meats, most legumes and lentils, and some nuts such as cashews and pistachios. Dairy, specifically meat, milk, cow, goat, sheep, soy, yogurt, and some cheeses such as ricotta and cream cheese. And of course, sweetness, your high fructose corn syrup, your agave nectar, honey, inulin, and those alcohol sugars that are commonly consumed when people do like a ketogenic diet. So maltitol, xylitol, and erythritol. So low FODMAP foods that generally well tolerated but need to be you need to be aware of appropriate serving sizes, because I find some foods can be good for a certain amount and considered low FODMAPs, but when you eat a bit more, it tips it over that threshold and becomes high FODMAPs. So I've noticed that with avocado can sometimes be in the high and the low FODMAP list, because of in a small amount it's okay, in a large amount it's a problem. So vegetables, you can have your green beans, your bell peppers, your bok choy, your carrots, fruits, cantaloupe, grapes, kiwi, and look, there's banana again, but green tips. So the more unripe bananas are okay, the ripe bananas are not okay. So there's all these little details that make the low FODMAPs diet a bit tricky. It's not like hard, fast rule. Grains that you can consume, so whole gluten-free based grains. So that's your buckwheat, your millet, your oats, your quinoa, your brown rice, and your corn. Pretty much most of your whole food protein sources, so your meats, your poultry, your fish, eggs, and some nuts such as macadamia nuts, pumpkin seeds, and walnuts. So again, some cheeses are high, some cheeses are low. So the cheeses such as brie, camembert, feta cheese, and hard cheese is okay. Lactose-free milk, because we identified as lactose being one of those sugars that can't be tolerated. Almond milk, so those are better alternatives, and sweeteners that you can tolerate, maple syrup, molasses, and rice malt syrup. So there's pros and cons to the diet. So the pro, which we talked about before, 70 to 86% of those following the low FODMAPs diet report improvements in their symptoms and overall well-being. They have fewer sick days. So as I mentioned before, half of people with IBS actually have to take time off from school and work when they have flare-ups because the pain can be quite debilitating. The other pro is a short-term commitment. So although you may have to remain FODMAP aware for some time, the elimination phase is 3 to 8 weeks. So it's a short period. And then you can start reintroducing foods and monitoring which are the trigger foods that you need to continue to avoid and which ones are okay. The con, which I mentioned before, lots of the low FODMAP list can disagree and give mixed messages, so it can be quite confusing. What I suggest is you just try it out. You have it in the diet, and then you eliminate it, reintroduce it, see if you notice a symptom flare up to know if that is a trigger food for you or not. Because 70 and 86% do well on the low FODMAPs, 14 to 30% do not or don't really see hardly any improvement. And then there's also the initial phase. You are eliminating a lot of healthy foods that you may not be reacting to, but so you're unnecessarily restricting the diet. But all in all, it's a short term, and then you can start incorporating foods in there. There is a app that you can get that the low FODMAP. So when you go grocery shopping, you can actually use it to determine which foods you can have and not have. So that can be helpful because, like I say, it does look very confusing because there's fruits and vegetables and grains you can have and not have. So just in summary, like most IBS and digestive challenges, it's best managed with a whole life approach. So managing stress is huge. So just to give you an example, at Crew here, we work with people that have been in motor vehicle accidents. And we get clients that have struggled with IBS before their car accident, but it was well managed. And then after the car accident, their IBS is like significantly flared up. And that's because the stress, the trauma from the accident, the lifestyle adjustments, they're now going to all these therapies, they have pain, they've lost their job. So that all contributes to stress, and stress flares up the IBS symptoms. So incorporating like meditation, mindset, yoga, nice hot baths, going for walks, all things to try and relax the mind and the body. Physical activity is really important, consuming a healthy whole food diet, and just having a strong support system around you are all good strategies to incorporate to better manage your IBS symptoms. The low FODMAP diet is still the current gold standard to begin to investigate the root cause of IBS symptoms, and that's just because it's had such a high success rate. So as I mentioned before, it can be pretty overwhelming and challenging. Like, where do I start with this? Especially because the foods can be confusing, the food list. So what we've done at Crew is we've actually designed a 7-day low FODMAP meal plan that you can incorporate into your day-to-day life. So it includes over 30 plus simple recipes, easy to use. So this can be a great starting point. So if you want to go onto our website and check that out, then please do. And if you have any more questions or you feel you want more support, then please reach out to us at Crew. We'd be more than happy to support you on your journey. So thanks everyone, and we will see you later.